URL filtering and file blocking profiles. Okay everyone, so in this video we're going to take a look at URL filtering and file blocking profiles on the Palo Alto firewall. We're going to configure two profiles. One is going to be the URL filtering profile, and then the next one will be a file blocking profile because we want to limit what the users can download from the internet. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay everyone, in our previous video we took a look at configuring antivirus and anti-spyware profiles. Now we need to enable URL filtering. We want to restrict access to specific websites for our internal users. And let's be more creative on this demonstration. I have a global inside to internet access policy. And the inside to internet access policy involves all my internet traffic from the inside to the outside. So all my users going to the outside, they're going to hit this particular policy because they're coming from the inside zone going to the outside. Now I want to restrict, or I want to limit what websites can my organization access internally. So let's go ahead and configure that profile. I'm going to go into URL filtering, and we go into objects under security profiles, URL filtering. And we mentioned earlier that we have a default profile that basically the Palo Alto will come with that predefined. And it shows that my categories as blocked for abuse, drugs, category, adult, etc. You have a command and control, which is basically the botnet category and websites that are participating in a botnet type of CNC attack. So this will be blocked by default. So let's go ahead and configure a custom one. And if you are okay with how the Palo Alto is treating the default, you just need to enable that default and you're already protected. But in our case, we want to be a little bit more creative. We want to create a custom one. So let's click on add. And on my name, I'm gonna say Corp URL Filter Global. And here I am going to block this. So I'm just gonna select this, and I'm gonna block and user credential submission. So if the website requires the user to input his username and password, you can either block it or allow that. So you also have the opportunity to block that particular action. So if, for example, you're allowing, but you're blocking that, even though that you're allowing it, if the user needs to log in, it's not going to go anywhere. But you have the option to be granular with that. We're also going to block adult, and we're going to block alcohol and tobacco, block, and then we want to block anything that has to do with piracy. So let's block that. We don't want employees looking for dating websites, not the time to do that. So we're going to block that. We're going to block gambling. We're not going to allow anyone to go to gambling websites in our corporate network. Hacking also, we don't want to do that. And we don't want people looking for jobs in our corp. So we're going to block that as well. Malware, same here. And you see the idea. The idea is to select custom actions or change what the default action is by creating a new one. And we're just blocking globally. So we're basically blocking inside to outside by just selecting here block. Phishing, same. And so let's go ahead and click OK. And now we have that custom selection, and it's kind of close to what the default selection is, but I just made this as my custom so you can take a look at how it's done if you need to do one custom one. And say for example, and this is a good case scenario, say for example you block alcohol and tobacco, so it's being blocked. But there's a website inside alcohol and tobacco that not necessarily you want to have a block because it might be a customer that you're doing business with and they're in the alcohol and tobacco industry. Their website needs to be open. This is where overrides will help you to allow that while keeping everything else blocked. So you have the override. The override means I am going to override what I am blocking globally on the category. So this list of websites are handled by the Palo Alto database. So the Palo Alto Cloud database will have the list of all websites that they are identifying to be alcohol and tobacco. And there might be cases where a website that you really need to have enabled falls on that category. So you can then do an override. An override will say, well, I want to allow Grey Goose because we're partners with that company. We're providing IT services to that company, and we need to allow that. But globally, I am blocking anything that has to do with alcohol, but I'm allowing this vodka company. So basically, I can put an override and say allow. Same with block. The block will be the opposite. So if I am allowing in auctions, right? I'm allowing globally to go to every single website. I'm allowing access for our internal users to every single website that relates to auctions. But I want to block eBay, which is an auction website. I can block that individually. And that's how you configure URL filtering. You have a global category. You just allow that or deny or block or allow globally. But then you might want to have a website that you don't necessarily want to allow globally. You can override it here, and you put the list of specific websites that might be allowed here, but then I'm just going to override for that particular one. And then the action on the block list is to block, and then the allowed is obviously allowed. So we'll press OK, and now we need to enable that policy on my inside to outside by going into policies and clicking inside to internet, and then going to actions, and then URL filtering, corp URL filter global, and we'll press OK. Now if we scroll all the way to the right, now we have that icon in our profiles column saying that I am attached to the URL filtering profile corp URL filter global, and any one that comes from the inside to the outside will be enforced by this URL filtering profile. Okay, so we just configure that, and let's go ahead and do the same for guest. And for guest, we can do something that is very common. So on the guest network, you're allowing guest users to use your internet, but there's people that are they're bandwidth hoggers. They want to take advantage of that and start downloading large files or movies or just streaming stuff. You want people to have internet access. You don't want people to take all your bandwidth, right? And one way to limit that type of traffic is by blocking those particular websites. So let's go back onto objects. URL filtering, I'm going to create another one. And in my case, I am still going to block here. I am going to block here. I am going to block adult. And you know what? I want to look for peer-to-peer. So that's a very good case scenario where people might be downloading torrents. We want to block that for the guest side. And we want to block streaming media. Let's go ahead and block. And that's basically it. With this profile, I am allowing my guest users to go outside, but I am blocking them from going to adult websites, anything that has to do with drugs, and anything that is streaming media like Netflix, YouTube, etc., and also from downloading or connecting to peer-to-peer networks. We'll press OK. I have a guest URL filter profile. I'm going with this profile to limit our guest wireless network from reaching those resources. So let's go back onto policies, guest internet access, and on actions, I am going to select that URL filter, which is guest URL filter, and press OK. And now we have our guest profile enabled. Okay. Finally, we're going to block file access from zone to zone. It means I am going to block anyone from downloading a specific file format or uploading a specific file format by creating a file blocking profile. We're going to go into objects. I'm going to go to file blocking. We have a predefined file blocking profile, and this is the file types that are going to be blocked. You can see the action here. And then anything else, this is continuous, so don't actually tell me that someone is actually downloading this type of file in my alert settings. So let's go ahead and click on add. I'm going to create a custom one. This will be my global corp, my corp file block profile. And I'm going to click add. I'm going to say extension 1, matching any applications, and you can be based on custom applications. So if the traffic matches a specific application, you can type it there. In my case, I'm just going to say any, and then this is where I am going to select a particular format. In my case, I want to block executables in both directions, either download or upload, and my action will be blocked. And I can make this more relevant to our case, executable. I can block torrent. Well, let's go ahead and see if torrent is an option here. So we'll click add. Now click go down, and there you have it. So now I am blocking torrent, and I can actually nest a couple inside the same policy. So in case you just want to make one option inside the profile and then select a handful of file types that we will block, then I can, for example, select zip, and there you go. So now the torrent category blocks torrent and zip. Let's go ahead and change this to block. We'll press OK, and we're done with the profile. Now let's go back onto the policy and enable that on our core network. We'll click the policy. Let's go to actions, file blocking, and we're going to select our custom one. We'll press OK, and we are done. If we scroll all the way to the right, now we have a file blocking profile that will block people from downloading executables, downloading torrent files, because this will download not the actual content, because you know torrent, you need a peer-to-peer client that will download the actual data that is referenced on that torrent file. But this is to avoid someone from downloading the actual torrent file that will basically link in their peer-to-peer program to download the actual data. And we're also going to block download zip from my inside to outside. And this is a good way to limit what gets uploaded or downloaded in your environment from your internal users. Okay everyone, in our next video we're going to be configuring a denial of service protection profile. Thank you for watching.